It was great to see so many of you at my spring garden seminar. We had a great time. We learned a lot of information from Daryl Lizer at Diamond Greenhouse. For those of you who missed it, here's a few tips. First of all, it's not too late to plant large seeds. He said little tiny seeds like lobelia you need to do back in February, but this is a great time to plant your larger seeds, your brassicas, your broccolis, cauliflowers, kale. In this case, I'm planting some pak choy. He also gave us some great tips for doing it. He said that you want 2 seeds per pack or per pot, because that way if one doesn't sprout, the other one probably will. And I thought this was great. I used to always dig a hole. He just has you put it on top, and then you poke it down with a pencil eraser. Go ahead and poke it down. And you poke it down just a little bit. You poke it down about the depth of the seed. Okay, and these guys right here. And then you just cover it over with a little bit of soil. And then once you've done that, Cooper, watch out. Just make sure you thoroughly water them. And he said the best way to do it, and this is the way I've been doing it for years, is to take one of these grow domes and put it over the top to keep the humidity in. Once you see sprouts forming, then you crack the top for a day to give them a little more air, then you take the top off, and then you're ready to go. Here's some kale and some chard. Obviously I started this a little too soon. It's kind of gotten tall and leggy, so these plants won't be quite as strong. What you want to do when you grow them, these ones I did the 2 seeds in each hole, is I'm just going to snip one off out of each one, so I leave one. Of course these make a good little snack. And the one thing you really need to do with your plants is you need to harden them off. So you want to put them outside in a shady area so they can get kind of used to the sunlight and used to the wind and just kind of get used to being outside. So you put them outside for a while in a shady area, bring them back inside at night. You do this for about a week before you plant outside. And one of the best tips that Daryl gives as far as knowing when to plant outside, because traditionally our planting day here in Alaska is Memorial Day weekend, although we have still had snow on the ground Memorial Day weekend. So what he says is you look at your birch trees, like those guys there, and when your birch trees have fully leafed out, you're past any danger of having a frost, and that's when it's safe to plant. And that's a really great tip to know because Anchorage has so many microclimates. Up on the hillside, it might be 3 weeks later than it might be in West Anchorage for being able to safely plant. As you can see, we're just starting to get buds on our trees, so we're probably at least a week or 2 away from being able to plant. In other parts of Anchorage, it might be safe to plant now. But for most places, it's still a little bit too early. So one of the questions I asked Daryl is, when do you prune your fruit trees? And he said realistically you can prune your fruit trees like this apple tree any time of year, but it's best to prune them in the spring. So this guy's got a few broken branches. I'm going to have to prune them back soon. Now when it comes to lilacs, you want to prune your lilacs just after they've blossomed, because the blooms that are coming on for this year, if you prune them now, you're going to lose those. And if you prune them in the fall, they've already developed their blossoms for next year. So you want to prune those guys right after they bloom. So another thing Daryl talked about is feeding and fertilizing your trees, bushes, and grass. Apparently here in Alaska, our soils are already high in nitrogen, which is the first number with the 3 numbers of fertilizer. So for here, you want a lowish first number, a mid-high second number, and a mid-third number. So he recommends something like an 8, 32, 16, or like a 10, 20, 15, something like that to fertilize your grass, your trees, your shrubs. He says you don't really need to go for all the different types of fertilizers, rose fertilizer and vegetable fertilizer, etc. He said just for our soils you can use a good basic fertilizer that's lower in the first number, higher in the middle number, and kind of a mid-third number, and that should take care of your fertilizing needs.